And we're live. Hi everyone. I hope you're all doing well. If you are in the Western Cape, I'm sure you're as chilly as I am. I'm actually got so many layers on because I just can't deal with this anymore. It's killing my soul. But we've got some sunshine today after a massive storm. Wind just out of control. Out of control. Welcome everyone who's joining. Saw Coach Kelly was on here for a moment. She jumped off. Katerina. Llewellyn. Hello. Hi everyone. Welcome. I'm just gonna wait for Firdose to jump on. She should be on in a second or two. So if you're keen to stay for the whole chat, I would suggest go and make yourself a quick cup of tea or a quick cup of coffee. I've got some tea over here. Maggie's here, of course, as you all know, present for interview session. And yeah, Firdose and I are going to chat about a few things. Mostly her chatting, just so you guys can get to know her. She's absolutely amazing. Her insights, her intellect, her intuition, her everything is just... she's become a very good friend of mine over the past few years, and also one of my teachers, also one of my co-students. So it's so wonderful when you have a relationship like that where, your friendship, especially with another woman can go into, your sister. Hi, everyone. Welcome. Yeah, so she's coming online. And Dilu, always good to have you.
Hi, how are you? I'm
Good,
so
how are
good. I'm
you?
so happy to be here. I'm not sure if you want me this way or that way or
Yeah. Let's do it that way.
this way.
Landscape. I just have to do that so I can charge my phone. Otherwise, my phone can't stand up.
Awesome, because I'm charging my phone too.
Perfect. And then you're just gonna have to check, Firdose, that your face is a little to your right. Yeah, so that the comments aren't over your face the whole time.
How's that?
Other direction. So shift the phone. Other way. No, other way. Yes. Yeah. Perfect.
Gotcha. How's that? Okay,
Perfect.
awesome.
Yay. Okay, now we can see your face. Yay. Hello.
Hello. I'm totally tech savvy now. Hey, I got it all set up. This is only my second ever Instagram live. So I'm super excited and really thrilled to be on with you.
Yay. Thank you so much for joining. I mean, I know that you are probably one of the people I know have had the fullest schedule, even kind of during lockdown, just busy all the time. So thank you for making the time. And I know we're going to have a few names we know join us. I see Emma's
Yay.
on. Ndiwu's
Hey,
on.
Emma.
Yeah.
Sit more.
So now Emma gets to see us two on the screen, where you got to see Emma and myself on the screen the other day.
That was pretty awesome. You guys have got the absolute best idea for book club. So I'm just going to use this as an excuse to talk about book club, where the two of you got together on Monday afternoon with your drinks and your snacks, and you were at my very first book club. So I was so grateful to have you there. And I thought your idea was brilliant. And it actually made me think, that's what we want happening around the country. We want girls getting together, drinks, snacks, and tuning in for 90 minutes once a month to be part of this new initiative to learn about ancient texts and how we can apply them in our lives today. So what did you think of it? Did you enjoy yourselves? Was it interesting?
I mean, was it interesting? It was amazing. It was amazing. I feel like I've taken on so many new things since lockdown, and I think the reason also being that I'm not at the Charlotte full time anymore. So I have a lot more time on my hands. I'm teaching in the mornings and then kind of late in the evenings. But I've kind of got these afternoons free. So I've been doing some of your work. I've been doing some of Ndiwa's work, who's on here. I'm waiting to go do a class with Emma, but her studio is kind of too busy for me right now. And so really walking down new avenues that I haven't before. So the work that we did on Monday, the readings that you did on Monday, absolutely blew my mind, because it's not like that's being like broadcasted, or that's what the information or the stories that have been told to me growing up, so
Sure.
I really find it fascinating, because there's so much to learn from it. And I mean, you knew after every time you were like, let's do some questions, and you were like, okay, I'm only going to take 3 questions or 3, comments, because everyone is just so excited.
No, I loved the response. And also, I mean, for those who were not there or who are interested, we looked specifically at representations of the female form in Indian epics. And I just picked 3 of the women that I find really interesting. And I find that their stories could all teach us a little something different, right? So we looked at the perfect wife. We looked at a woman who used her intellect to win a debate against a man. And then we looked at a woman who was humiliated even though she had 5 husbands. So it was really, really interesting to look at the different women and then see how those impressions relate to the woman that we are, the woman that we know, and the woman that we want to or don't want to be in 2020. And I found your guys' reflections, one of the things I mentioned in the conversation was that for me, these stories were like the stories I grew up listening to, and that I didn't really question or engage with critically. They were like fairy tales to me. Now I'm starting to look at them, and I'm really starting to interrogate them from an academic perspective. And the joy of going back to something that you knew as a kid, and then really looking at it deeply, and then presenting it to other people with this entirely bird's eye view approach. It's almost like I found a new purpose in a way. I was chatting to my husband about it, and he was like, wow, you're really into this stuff. Like, this seems like this is really what you should be doing, because I actually have a real job, which is not this.
But which is also, I mean, you've built yourself into an incredible position. I think let's I mean, we can talk about book club for like the next hour. Let's start with you, to whoever's online. I think most of the people on here do know you, but this talk really is about you, Firdose. You are a guest on this interview because you inspire me. I was saying just before you jumped online, it is amazing when you get to know someone that you connect with, and then they're able to become your friend, and then you're able to really see your sisterhood in one another, and then they become your teacher whilst also being your co-student. And that is such a special relationship to have, and I can only see you teaching me more as I get to know you more, which is so inspiring. So for those of you who don't know Firdose, this is your opportunity to get to know her. If you got specific questions, just wait until the end. You can pop some on. But otherwise, if there are no questions, that's fine. I am going to let Firdose take the floor. If you would introduce yourself, I know there's a lot you could say, but if you just think of kind of where you grew up, a little bit of your upbringing, a little bit of your cultural background, and maybe like university and career kind of things.
Goodness, okay. I'm going to try not to take our whole time telling you my whole life story. But basically, I grew up in Joburg, and I grew up in a Muslim home. And I was part of the initial wave of children of color that attended what today we would call Model C, or formerly whites-only schools. My dad was an active member of the ANC and very involved in the struggle for the liberation of all people in South Africa. And so I grew up in quite a political background, and I had a deep understanding that there was injustice in our country, and injustice that we could actually do something about. So it was late 80s, early 90s. I started going to school with pretty much only white people, which was really unusual to me, because obviously my family were not white, and also the people that I had gone to nursery school were not. And I found the juxtaposition made me part of what I like to call today the chameleon generation. And we're just kind of people who, we had one life at home and another life at school, and we were always between these two lives. And I think, it's difficult, because one of the consequences is that you bury your own culture, because you feel as though it's embarrassing because nobody else knows the things that you know. And so you're constantly kind of having to explain your own culture, and then you just end up pretending it doesn't exist because that's easier. But then the other side of it is that you really learn to operate in these different worlds. And I think that served me well pretty much throughout my life. So when I was in high school, my parents were very interested in cricket, especially my dad. And he was also a history teacher, so he's had a really huge influence on my life. And but to that, I just want to point out that we actually had a really poor relationship, and when he died, we weren't even talking. So it's like, you know, a very kind of different. Even though I liked him as a person, we didn't get on very well. And so
But you can still
when I
learn
was in high
lessons
school, he
from
lost his job.
anyone, right?
Absolutely. Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. When I was in high school, he lost his job, and I had to start working at quite a young age. And one of the ways that I found to earn money was by scoring at the cricket. So I didn't want to work in a retail shop like a lot of my friends. I became a cricket scorer, and I worked at the various clubs around Gauteng. And then I actually got a position at the Wanderers Stadium. I had just finished school, and I started scoring on international cricket matches, and I loved it. And my job was to score on the internet. So we had an internet scoring system, and it involved a little bit of text commentary. And I liked the organization, which is ESPNcricinfo. And I asked them, can I come and work for you? And they said yes. And they didn't have much money at the time or even a job. I don't even think ESPN had bought them at that stage. I think they were still just Cricinfo. Maybe it was Wisdom Cricinfo at the time. And yeah, I started working for them. I finished my undergraduate degree in law and economics. And then I did a postgraduate degree in journalism. All the while I worked for Cricinfo. It's been where I've worked my whole life. So they gave me a family that I didn't have, which I was really appreciative of. I still work there. And then I got, you know, because that was my career path kind of decided at a very young age, it also gave me the freedom to really explore other things. I worked from home, and I still do, even in or out of lockdown. And so I'm so grateful in that my employers, and because of the way the cricket season works, you have gaps, and then you have times when you're very intensely busy. So I used my gaps well. One of the things I did was the yoga teacher training. So first I started like getting super fit, and I got into running, and I still run. And then I did a nutrition course when I was in Australia at the World Cup. And then I wanted to do a teacher training, and I got given a month off. So I got to do that. And I got really into it, and I thought, I really want to take this further. And I was in the UK on a cricket tour, and I saw that there was a degree offered in the traditions of yoga and meditation. It was a history degree, and I love history. History is like my favorite thing. One of my favorite things. And so I asked if I could get a sabbatical for a year to go and do this degree, and I was fortunate enough to get it. And so I took my sabbatical, and I went and did my degree, and I did super well. And I want to say that because it was really hard, and I was really, I doubted myself a lot. I wasn't sure I was up for UK academia. So, you know, I was so proud that I did well. And then I came back. I was accepted to do a PhD in the UK, but I didn't have the funding. So I came back home, started teaching on yoga teacher trainings, started a project for yoga for refugees here in Cape Town, because that was what my research was about. Started my book club, which I'm just going to talk about on and on and on because I want people to join. And returned to my job at really the best time to be a sports journalist in South Africa, where we've got the Black Lives Matter and the race campaign colliding with sport. And really, these are all the things that I'm so passionate about. So everything has worked out kind of as it should. And I just feel I'm in such an interesting place now. I'm about to start my doctoral work on the history of yoga in the global south and looking at a decolonized yoga practice. And I just feel like I'm where I should be, and I'm doing what I should be doing, which is really exciting. Yeah, so that's my journey up to now, told in 10 minutes or less.
Well, I mean, it's you very blasé about the fact that you have done all this work. I don't think a lot of the time people, you know, even just you were like, oh, and I became a yoga teacher in a month. I don't think people realize how much work you've put into your studies, how many hours you have studied and worked and integrated and really put that information together, you know, it's like you don't know until you know. And the thing about information for me is I can
Yeah.
read a book, but if I can't integrate it, then I can't teach it, and I also I can't take it from book to mind and to someone else. And I think that you have you have that gift to be able to absorb information, integrate it so that it's almost, you know, that it's embodied within yourself, and from that space you teach so naturally. And
Oh, thanks, Kathleen. I want to tell you a funny story. When I was growing
yes,
up.
go.
Oh, sorry, I cut you off there, but I have to tell you the story. I was an only child for 10 years. My brother is 10 years younger than me. And so I grew up pretty much alone. And we lived at the school where my dad was working. So I had like some older friends who were like his students. And a lot of us actually are still in contact today. But my only friends day to day were, I had lots of teddy bears, and I loved teddy bears. And I used to line them up, and I used to play teacher with them and teach all the teddy bears whatever story I'd been told that day. And I always grew up saying, I want to be a teacher, I want to be a teacher. And one of my first jobs, in that story I told you about when my dad had lost his job, I was offered a job as a substitute maths teacher at my old high school, Jeppy Girls. And I did it for a term. It was just a substitute job while I was still at university. And I remember thinking I could actually do this as a career. But I had that whole writing thing, and I wanted to get into cricket journalism and sports journalism. And I never really thought I'd be a teacher. And I actually think that's pretty much what I am. Even though, you know, writing is a big part of my life. And you know, I've been a writer for as long as I can remember. So I like to put that out there too.
100%. And being able to convey that information, whether it is in person, whether it is writing an article, whether it is online now, for instance, where we're all having to like teach to these screens, or teach not even having any faces in front of you. I was laughing, Naomi was on the chat just now, but I actually did her class the other night, and her screen went blank while she was teaching, so we could see and hear her, but she couldn't see us at all. So it's like it's really, really weird.
Shame,
but
me.
Shame.
So
but
weird.
I think that now more than ever, if you've got information, if you've got wisdom, if you've got knowledge, if you've got a way to empower people to move forward, to grow, to awaken, to expand, then the time really is now to be sharing that in any way, shape, or form. And I think that's what really inspires me by everything that you're doing. You're teaching on yoga teacher training courses. You're doing the book club now. And then, of course, I'm on this course with you at the Shala. So I'd love for you to chat a bit more about the course that you're doing with the Shala right now, because that's kind of a different avenue as well.
Yeah, thanks, Kathleen. So that course is called Inclusion and Activism, and it's really stemming from the fact that my critique of yoga in the Western urban world is that it's very inward looking, and it's about people, especially middle class young women to a large extent, looking after themselves without looking outward, and this constant journey of self-improvement with no real desire to change the world. And you know, from what I've told you, like I've always grown up with a deep sense that we exist to make the world a better place, and that we should be doing that. And I feel like in our 20s, it's very easy to just look past that, because, you know, in your 20s, you're having all the fun, you're doing all the things, and you just kind of don't want to engage with these very deep issues. So I feel as I've got a little bit older as well, I've returned to that place of actually, what am I doing? What am I doing that is going to make a difference? And so for me, the essence of yoga and the essence of yoga philosophy is that it has always been, in its various iterations over 5,000 years, about liberation, and about liberation either of the soul, either of use of the body to liberate the soul. You know, it's always about a freedom struggle. And that is really the world we live in right now. We are in a struggle for freedom from a pandemic, from a huge amount of racism, and from gender-based violence. And I wanted to bring these things together. And so I thought, why don't I approach a yoga studio? And the Shala, Kathleen, as you know, it's where we both trained, and it's a place where transformation is really part of the essence of the studio. And I approached Tamsin and said, look, I really want to do this 5-part series, which directs people through the history of division, then looks at the situation we're in now. And that's kind of where we are at the moment with our series. And then we're going to move on to looking at racial affinity groups and how we can work apart and then together. So not just, I'm not a believer in that we need to each be taking different roads. I think we will have to find each other again. I think if the human race is to progress, people of various backgrounds have to come back to each other. We have to meet each other. And so we're going to look at that. Then we're going to look at indigenous knowledge systems, including Cape Malay knowledge systems, which I think are very important to Cape Town, which is where I am and where you, I think, are. Is Hermanus part of the Western Cape? I don't even know that.
Yeah.
It is, right? And then in our final episode, which will take place just before Heritage Day, so just as we're about to celebrate everything about being South African, we will look at what we can actually practically do to take these actions forward. And so, sure, I'm not saying we're going to get everybody lined up on the street doing a Warrior 2, because that's not going to change the world. But we are going to start to think about mind-body connection and how we can use mind-body connection to change the world. Yeah, there you go. There you go. So yeah, that's the series. I've had such a good response so far. And Kathleen, to me, what's been so heartwarming about it is that I get the same people coming back, people engaging, the same people are coming to other things like the book club, or they're on teacher trainings I'm teaching on. And so I'm really starting to see a community build. And to me, that's very important, because I think there's huge power in collective action. So, I can do the things on my own, and it will have a very small impact, but then I can do the things with all of you, and then together we can have a huge impact.
100%. And I also, I've been trying to, also stick to that commitment to being part of the change. And I think that really comes back to you saying, like, a lot of people are on this, like, self-improvement journey, where it is all about the live, laugh, love, and all of that. And there's, sure, I don't want to shame that at all. There's place for live, laugh, love in life, for sure. But what I found was that, especially when I first got into something like really opening my eyes to race work, is that it was really hard. And I actually went, okay, cool. I've done this thing. I'm going to put it on pause for a while, and I'm kind of going to let it integrate and settle. And then having to, like, almost take myself by the shoulders and be like, no, that's not the choice anymore that you have to make. You don't have that choice to make anymore. That choice does actually not exist anymore. It cannot exist anymore. And so looking at...
And it also speaks to privilege,
Exactly. So looking at the people who are in these groups,
people with privilege,
looking at people in these groups, a lot of them white young women who I've seen in your talks, who I've seen in Ndiwu's talks, who are from the teacher trainings, and seeing obviously, like, mostly women, which is also kind of unsurprising to me, but seeing these people who are really committed to doing the work. And, I think I've said it to you before. I've also said it to Ndiwu before. Like, you two ladies are such pioneers in this industry in South Africa. And it's just, we need women like you. I've said to you before, I can't wait to see you on Oprah, on Super Soul Sessions, because honestly, I think that's where you're going. Like, honestly, I think that's where you're going.
It's never been a goal of mine to be on Oprah until you said it. And then when you said it, I was like, oh, okay, maybe I should be on Oprah now. But I do think, I think what is crucial about what you've said, actually, Kathleen, is that, we're attracting one demographic to the work at the moment, which bothers me a little bit in that, you were at Monday session and I had a Wednesday session yesterday on the book club. And I actually said it to the group that, guys, this is great and we're having such a wonderful time, but actually you're all young and white. And I like you, and I like young white people, and I like all people. But I do think it would be nice if we could diversify this group a little bit. And how would we do that? And it brings us back to the questions of who's got the time to come to something which is potentially taking place in the middle of the day when somebody else is working, who's got the internet access, who can afford to, you know, pay for a very fast, super speedy, high definition connection. And then who's got the headspace, because headspace is also a privilege, you know, when you can just sit around and think about something that isn't survival, you know, that is in itself a luxury and a privilege. So, you know, part of the work I do in the refugee community is it's very short meditations where we do it on voice note sessions because data is a problem, you know, so we just have voice note meditations where there's 10 or 15 minutes, and now we've put them together into a little database. And for me, those are the practical steps that we can take to start reaching other people and to start getting out into other spaces. So the pandemic really hasn't helped in that we're confined to homes and we're confined to an online way of communicating. So when that changes, I really want to keep going out there, going into different spaces and meeting people in different environments, because I think that's where interesting work can happen as well.
Absolutely, and it is just like it's yeah. There is a global community building in this work that you're doing of people that are being attracted to this work. It is obviously a lot of local people. It's a lot of local yoga teachers, and I really hope that you know, something starts small, and I can see this growing very big, and I can see it diversifying. I can see it growing. You know, something like the book club, which has been quite, the first sessions were quite woman orientated, and, you know, we were actually quite happy that it ended up being just women. And so perhaps something like the book club might continue to be a generally like a female-based activity or group, which I think is just as needed in the world. I think you said it in...
Sure.
In which talk were you saying? Oh, I think it was in the inclusion talk at the Shala. You know, as women, we're already the minority demographic, right? And now something like COVID hits, and you add that to it. It's like, how many jobs are lost, and where does that put us again? So there are many things that we can look at that's happening globally. And I think that you're addressing so many of them. And so I'm just going to actually use this as a segue to take us into, for instance, your yoga teaching and your yoga practices or any other practices you've picked up. I just want to read here. Oh, Alexandra says, I would love to spread the word here in Germany. Let me know how to support. Alex, I told you about the book club. Join the book club.
I mean, seriously.
Join the book club. I'll send you the link, Alex. Guys, whoever wants to join the book club, send Firdose a DM. Join. I promise you, join in. It is fantastic.
Totally.
But Firdose, I'm going to use that as a segue to ask you, give us 3 of your self-care practices during this time that you have really felt that almost without those 3 things, you know, they were 3 of the things that were the glue that has kept you together through, you know, an extra trying time.
I think running is definitely one of them. So I started running when I started traveling as a journalist, as a cricket journalist, because it was the only form of exercise I could do, because we never stayed in hotels that were fancy enough to have a gym. So the only thing I could do was put on my shoes and hit the road. And I'm not a fast runner, and I'm not going to be winning the comrades anytime soon. But I like to run, and I run with nothing. I don't run with earphones. I don't run with sunglasses because I lost them many years ago and never bought another pair. And, you know, so it's just me and like the road. And it's my only time where I'm not in communication with people. My general job is to be in communication a lot. I don't even like it if somebody says hello to me when I'm running, because I don't want to say hello back. And it's really a great time for me to get into my own head and just like work through, you know, things. And I don't really think about it, I guess. I just put one foot in front of the other, try to go with the breath. And it's something I do every day, whether it's long, short, fast, slow, if I feel crappy, if I feel great, if I feel anything, I just do it. And I know when I don't do it, I generally don't have a good day. And I also only do it in the morning. Once I tried to run at lunchtime and it was a disaster. So that's the absolute thing that's number one for me. The other thing has been music and like a sound practice. So again, I'm not going to be releasing any hit singles anytime soon, but I like to play my harmonium. I've also, once in a mad kind of moment, well, perhaps not only one mad moment in my life, but one of the many mad moments in my life, I fell in love with the West African kora, which is a harp-like instrument with 21 strings. I decided I had to have one, so I had one specially made for me. It got delivered from Senegal to France to the UK, and eventually I picked it up from a friend, and it was like such a saga. So I've started learning to play that, and it's like specially made for short women, because I'm a short woman, and normally it's like, you know, really tall West African men playing this instrument. So I like to play, I like to sing, I like to listen to a lot of interesting stuff. Especially, I like to listen to a lot of protest music. So recently I've been listening to a lot of Algerian rhyme music, which I just love the, you know, the plague and the port city of Oran, and knowing about Albert Camus and Algeria has really kind of made me listen to a lot of that music at this time. And then my third one, it's probably, I drink a lot of tea, but I don't know if that's just because like when I'm in a rough spot and I'm not like sure what should I do next in my day, then I go out and make a cup of tea. And I drink a lot of rooibos tea. So I think rooibos tea is probably the third one. But can I add a fourth one? Because I remember you showing us Maggie before the talk started. So
she's
I
lying
can't show
over
you
here.
my
I'm
cat
giving
because
her a
he's
head
curled
massage.
up in his basket. Oh, so I love little cats, and we have 3 cats in our building. We've just had a new little kitten move in, so I try and like stalk them in my few seconds of spare time and capture them and like see if we can play a game together. And I guess those kinds of things do keep me sane. But I really enjoy, like I've had a lot of people tell me, you know, you shouldn't be working so much. I really enjoy getting into my work and really getting into my research, and I can sit for hours looking over papers or going through a particular story I'm working on. And I'm trying to get balance, but I think it's healthy to also really enjoy what you do. So I think that's pretty important too.
I mean, I love all of those things. I think all of those are, it's something quite accessible to everyone. Like you say, we don't have to start a band or have a hit record or anything like that. But you know, there's so much power in ritual. You know, something like if you're making your tea, you know, you could brew your tea, you know, you could really take time and have that be your 5 minutes or your 10 minutes in your day, where
Yeah.
you know, sit outside in a spot of sunlight, and just use that time for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know that we talk about the yoga practice as that thing where you roll the mat out and you start doing the poses. And I do that, obviously. And I teach that, and you know, but there are days when it's just like I don't have the time now to do a full hour and turn on a video and look for a class to join and think, what should I do after this? You know, I'm just really, as you say, make a cup of tea, sit in the sunlight, and be grateful that in the midst of really what is global crisis, I'm able to do something I really love, and I'm still okay. So I think that that's really important to recognize and to experience that privilege too. You know, we've been hammering on about other people's privilege. I have a privilege of my own, which I should acknowledge, and that is also part of the mind-body connection. So I don't want to take it too far from yoga, and I want to remind people that I do some yoga every now and then. But you know, there's lots of ways of doing yoga. It doesn't have to be headstand. Yoga can just be taking a walk down the road and breathing when you put one foot forward and breathing out when you put the other foot forward.
I mean, you know, I'm as well. I'm not a asana based yogi, as I think a lot of people in the kind of Western world.
Yeah.
You know, if you have oh, I can't do yoga because I can't touch my toes, or if they see a picture of a yogi in a pose, you know, and again, it's not about shunning. It's not about saying that's wrong, or this is this, or this is this. I think for me, the important thing is that at least question it. You know,
Yeah.
if something is off-putting to you, if something is scary to you, if you don't understand something, or even if it's something that, you know, you're confronted with a lot, but you're really not interested in it, maybe just question it. Do some research, pick up your phone, call a friend, go on Google, and actually just find out a little more about it. And you might realize that you know nothing about it. I mean, even myself, when I was practicing yoga, you don't know anything about yoga until you go into a teacher training, really. You know, unless that's been your life philosophy, or unless you grew up in a home with yoga, you know, the blinds will be taken off your eyes. And I think that's the thing. And I think you bring that into your teachings a lot, because you don't teach, you obviously teach for us to kind of absorb what you're teaching us in that moment, and we do, but you can only absorb that much in a particular amount of time. But what you do and what you give through your teachings, I believe, out of experience, is that when I leave any of your sessions that you do, it makes me want to go find out more myself.
That's so, you're so right. And I mean, Kathleen, that's something that you do in a physical sense. I haven't been to a class of yours in a long time, because you decided to leave us and move off to a nice country place and live on a farm. And I mean, like, you're just living the best lockdown life. But I think that's exactly it, is that understanding of, there isn't one way to do this, and you need to do your own kind of research into how you do things, whether that's a pose, and you're teaching someone how to get into a physical shape, and then their body's different, and you're teaching them how to do it and you're teaching them how to do it, but also how to figure out how they can do it that's best for them. And I think that's what, you know, teachers of physical yoga practice do, or good teachers such as yourself are the ones who are telling people, go and explore this, and then relying on them to actually go and do that, not to just leave the room and forget about everything that happened. And so it's much the same with history and philosophy research. You know, history is not necessarily always factual. A lot of it is interpretative. We've got to go back, we've got to look and piece things together. And I'm going to come up with one interpretation of the story of Hanuman, and you're going to come up with another one. And then we're not going to flipping fight with each other. We're going to have a discussion, and you're going to tell me what led you to your conclusions, and I'll tell you what led me to my conclusions. And maybe we'll meet a common ground, or maybe we'll piece an entirely new story together. And for me, that's really what makes any kind of cultural practice like yoga or dance or any embodied knowledge practice so interesting, is that there's so many layers to it. It's not just the physical aspect. We're looking at the whole environment, the social history, the philosophy, and then the knowledge that is not written down, the knowledge that's just in the body, that you only experience when you're in the body. I was chatting to someone about it the other day. They were asking, what is embodied knowledge? What does it actually mean? And it was a woman. So I said, it's actually like your body just knows how to give birth. And I'm saying this with no experience and no intention of having any experience of such a thing. But I hope that if I was ever in the position where I needed to do that, it would just do it, right? Like, I mean, my mom's obviously just did it. Your moms did. And many people on our chat did. Like, your body just knows how to do that thing. That's a kind of embodied knowledge structure. So that, I think that just exploring that against the book knowledge and the academic knowledge that is so prevalent in our university settings, and what we place authority on, because we want somebody to tell us, but Mr. X, who has high authority, has said this to us. How can we balance the scale so that it's not just high authority that has a place of importance, but also the knowledge we have within us that has importance?
I just did a yin teacher, or a yin training with a friend of mine, and what she did in her training was that she put us in the yin poses, and then would start to go through almost the training manual or the teachings of what we're doing. So if we were working on Chinese 5 elements, or if we were chatting about meridians, or if we were talking about the yin and yang, then she would be talking about the philosophy while we were in the poses. And it was a completely different way for me to do a training like that, because it's either, you know, asana, or then your meditation, your pranayam, or then you're seated for your anatomy, or you're seated for your philosophy. And it was so beautiful to be like, prop yourself up in this pose. And I mean, yin isn't meant to be, yin is not restorative yoga. So yin is meant to pull on you and open you and kind of
Yeah.
redirect very deeply ingrained connections in your body and change that. And so while you're in these poses that are physically changing your physical, your cellular structure, you're then also being fed information. And it was like mind
What a
blowing.
beautiful idea.
Yeah.
Stunning idea. I love that.
Yeah. So that's Caitlin. She's just amazing. And then I guess this is also not going to be it doesn't have to be a short answer from you, but it's kind of like the last little tidbit that I wanted to throw in and ask you. It's just a question I've been asking everyone at the end of our chats. And I'm like almost hoping that if I can bring it all together, we'll have a good idea of what would be good for the world. And the question is, if you could make one thing abundant in the world, what would it be? And why?
Yeah, I kind of thought long and hard about this one, and I asked a friend. Well, I asked my husband earlier what he thought it would be, and he gave me his answer. So I thought maybe I should steal that and use it, but that wouldn't really be fair. So I think it's a difficult one in the sense that we want to solve problems and we want to reach a state of equality. So I'm kind of thinking my end goal is a world of greater equality, opportunity for everybody, and a lack of capitalist agenda that just seeks to make profit and to put other people in positions where they are constantly working. So what do I think would lead us to that world? And I think the only thing that I could come up with, and it's probably not the answer, but I'll give it to you anyway, is that I think we need a world of greater, and I'm going to use it with an adjective, so of compassionate knowledge. And a world where it's not just a search for information, because we are in the information age. And so you're going to find information, misinformation, fake information on Google. So it's not about information searching. It's about knowledge which takes into account each other's experiences. And so maybe that's just an understanding of each other. Maybe that would be another word for it, where we can talk to each other without the barriers of hate, of anger, and of the extremes that we're seeing coming out at the moment. But instead, we're looking for an understanding of, I want to learn about you, you want to learn about me. And we're not going to hate on each other for the experiences we've had, but there's things you can take from me and things I can take from you that we can then use going forward. But then in all of that, I think there is an importance on accurate knowledge, retelling of history, because there's so many voices that have been silenced. Our history is told to us from a particular perspective, from the perspective of the victors and from the perspective of those who had the access to write it down. So, women's history, minority histories, particularly now we're seeing a migrant crisis happening again in parts of Europe, and maybe, trying to understand those histories. So I think that search for knowledge is important too. And then obviously we are trying to cure a pandemic. So we're looking for some very clever person to come up with what's gonna help us to ease this infection rate and to make the world a place where we can touch each other once again. So whoever's got that knowledge, if you're on this Instagram live, what the hell are you doing on here? Go and solve the problems of the world.
Help us help you.
Help us. Yeah, exactly.
Firdose, thank you so much for your time. I mean, I absolutely adore you. You are a light in this world. You have the ability. I laughed at you when we got so deep in book club on Monday, and you were like, "No, guys, we're not supposed to go in this direction. It was supposed to be a light-hearted book club, conversation." And that's the thing, is you're able to bring these very real, very serious topics to light. You're able to ignite deep reflection and questioning within people without forcing anything in anyone's face. And I think that right now, that is almost a way to go, because people are so like, oh, you know, let's not go there, or I don't want to talk about it, or, you know, they're all these trigger words at the moment they come into a conversation. And yes, that needs to be there as well. But I just think that without giving people a free pass, without letting people spiritually bypass, or, you know, it's not the easy way, but I just think that you've got an ability to make people move into self-inquiry without them even knowing that's why they signed up for working with you.
Thanks, Kathleen. That's an amazing compliment. I didn't expect such a showering of good wishes. I think part of it is also there's been a lot of, maybe we want to call it divine timing, just in that this is a conversation I have tried to start several times, and I did find resistance. And I found the most recent time, people were the most open. And those are people including yourself, you know, for example, somebody who you know, Kathleen, you would excuse me for saying, but you could probably just shut the door on this. This is not something you would have to engage in. You're probably able to say, no, I don't need to engage in that. But you've come, you've joined in with us. You're talking with us. You're exploring this with us. You're asking questions. We're having a laugh. And then we're thinking, okay, what can we really do to start to make an impact? Because we're not going to make an impact from a place of force. And we're not going to make an impact from a guilt trip. And we're not going to make an impact from a constant battle with each other. We've got to be able to at least share a little joke at some point. We've got to be able to just find some commonalities. And I think working with people like you, and there've been so many people on this chat that I've recognized the names from, you know, everybody who's been willing to be part of this. I'm not saying pat yourselves all on the back because, oh, now we're willing to get involved. But do understand that, you know, being part of community entails a little bit of give and take. And so, yeah, there are going to be times we irritate each other. That's fine. And there are going to be times when maybe we need to take steps back from each other and then kind of rethink with ourselves or with other people close to us how we're going to approach things. But as long as we remember that we can always come back to a situation where we're discussing, and we can always come back to a situation where we are really looking for solutions and finding ways forward, then I think we're going to move forward in a really productive way. And I just want to say, I think South Africa, you know, being away, and as one of many people who've left the country, I considered many times, you know, wouldn't it be nice not to go back, because it's a country with a lot of problems, and it doesn't always feel easy. You know, even when they tell us we're going to level 2 lockdown, then they hit us with load shedding. It's like there's some days when it's just like, wow, this is a tough place to be.
No.
But I do think that we, you know, I'm not ready to give up just yet. I think that this is really the hotbed of a lot of big issues. You know, the last bastion of white supremacy, perhaps, violence is rampant and class issue. It would be so easy to say, okay, like, I don't want to confront this, but I don't think that would be the right thing to do. So to everybody who I think has come on, I think it would be great to just keep coming back. And even if we feel like we're hitting our head against the wall, then we're gonna have to hit it a little bit harder next time, I suppose, because we are going to change something. And I feel that there's a big shift coming. So thank you for willing to get involved and for having this conversation. I think it's really important.
I mean, I would keep you on here. Instagram's going to kind of cut us off in a little bit in any case, but really thank you, Firdose. Thank you for the time that you spent here today. Thank you for the time that you're spending on all the courses and workshops that you're offering. Thank you for all the hours and hours and hours and hours and weeks and months and years that you've spent in studying and learning and really becoming a person that's going to change the world. And I'm not joking when I say, and I'm going to use this interview as proof one day, when you're on Super Soul Sessions, I'm going to be like, ha, I told you it's going to happen. That girl's going places. And I really honestly know you are. And I feel honored to be walking beside you, behind you. I'm just, yeah. So much love for you.
Thank you, Kathleen. And we can pull this out. Like, it'll be like my, if I was to turn 21 again and people pull out the videos of like the stupid things you did, we can pull it out as like, look, we told you. So thank you very much for creating this platform and for everything that you're doing too.
So much love, babe. Have a beautiful
And I'm coming to visit you
afternoon.
and Maggie soon.
Yes, and I will see you soon. I'll chat to you soon in any case.
Yay, thanks, Kathleen. Bye,
So much
everybody.
love. Bye. Thanks everyone for joining.